Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Hannah and let's talk Les Miserables. So today is actually Tuesday. Toma hasn't been feeling the greatest. He actually has a cold right now. And so I don't like filming when he's sick. It just feels rude. And so I just kind of tried to delay it a little bit. But I just read 2 chapters today and there's quite a lot happening in this one. So the first chapter starts out where they're talking about how they only need 30 men to hold the barricade and there's closer to 40. And so they're saying, like, if you have a family, like if you are the breadwinner of your family, don't sacrifice yourself on this barricade and leave them with nothing. Leave now, kind of thing, because they pretty much only have like 15 minutes until they're attacked. And they are prepared to just have everyone die. Like, everyone who's staying knows they're gonna die today. And so they're trying to convince people, like, if you have children, if you're married, whatever, leave before that chance is gone forever. And no one wants to leave. And it takes Combeferre and Marius and Enjolras all kind of making these mini speeches and stuff to actually get people going. At first, they're making a good point, but then it kind of devolves into something quite insulting. This is on page 999. And at first they're talking about like the wives and sisters that they would leave behind. And they say, a man may beg, but a woman has to sell. And just that one sentence is so impactful to me because obviously it's referring to prostitution there. And a woman left with nothing is gonna have to resort to that just to get by. And so they're trying to kind of give them a wake-up call of like, this would be the reality of the people you leave behind if you stay here and get yourself killed, kind of thing. And so at first I'm sympathizing with them because I'm like it's a good point to bring up, especially for that time period and stuff. But then further down the page it says, women, poor souls, are not much given to thinking. We pride ourselves on the fact that they are less educated than men. We prevent them from reading, from thinking, from concerning themselves with politics. Will you not also prevent them from going to the morgue tonight to identify your bodies? You were doing so well there, Victor Hugo, and you just had to add that in. Like, that is fucking insulting. But also to see them admit, like, we pride ourselves on the fact that they are less educated than men. Like, just them openly talking about how they hold women back is depressing as fuck. But also, that means I've made it to page 1000! Yay, we're finally there. The last 200 pages of the story. So anyway, they end up convincing 5 people to come forward, but then they realize they only have 4 uniforms for disguises, because they're basically disguising them as like the soldiers to be able to just kind of like walk out. But then we have another key player comes forward. This is on page 1002. And basically, like, they're arguing. They're telling Marius to pick 4 out of the 5. And Marius is just like, I don't want to, like, condemn a person to die. But then it says, Marius in his stupor counted them. There were still 5. Then he looked down at the 4 uniforms. As he did so, a 5th uniform was added to the heap, as though it had fallen from the clouds. The 5th man was saved. Looking round, Marius recognized Monsieur Fauchelevent. Jean Valjean had entered the stronghold. And so he has arrived, so you know shit is definitely going down soon. And then on the very next page, it says, who is this man? Demanded Busset. At least, said Combeferre, he's ready to save another man's life. Marius said authoritatively, I know him. This was enough for them. Enjolras turned to Jean Valjean. Citizen, you are welcome. And he added, you know that we are about to die. Valjean, without replying, helped the man he had saved to put on his uniform. And that is how that chapter ends. And this is something that isn't addressed at all in the media for this, I think. I don't remember any instance of where people were trying to, well, not trying to, because they all want to stay. They're not really doing this on purpose. But of them having this speech and giving people time to leave and people that have families time to leave. And I feel like that's very interesting. And it's something that they've thought of because Enjolras is like, this is our movement. If all of us die, then I mean, how does anyone go on to make sure it happens kind of deal? And so I feel like that's actually a really good point and good idea for them to let the people that have families go home. And also I feel like I remember that Jean Valjean was wearing some sort of uniform when he escapes the barricade, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. I'll definitely have to read more. But then the next chapter I read was The World as Seen from the Top of the Barricade, and it's basically just Enjolras being on top of the barricade, giving more speeches and talking about like the Republic and stuff again. So it's not anything really new. Like he's mainly talking about like advances in technology and things like that. Like he's talking about the locomotive and like hot air balloons and stuff. This is on page 1005, and it says, "You are to die in this place, which is to say you are to triumph. Citizens, no matter what happens today, in defeat no less than victory, we shall be making a revolution. Just as a great fire lights up all the town, so a revolution lights up all mankind. And what is the revolution that we shall make? I have already told you. It is the revolution of truth." And then further down the page, it says, "Citizens, our 19th century is great, but the 20th century will be happy. Nothing in it will resemble ancient history." Didn't exactly go that way. "Today's fears will all have been abolished. War and conquest, the clash of armed nations, the course of civilization dependent on royal marriages, the birth of hereditary tyrannies, nations partitioned by a congress or the collapse of a dynasty, religions beating their heads together like rams in the wilderness of the infinite. Men will no longer fear famine or exploitation, prostitution from want, destitution born of unemployment, or the scaffold, or the sword, or any other malice of chance in the table of events. One might almost say, indeed, that there will be no more events. Men will be happy. Mankind will fulfill its own laws as does the terrestrial globe, and harmony will be restored between the human souls and the heavens. The souls will circle about the truth as the planets circle round the sun. I am speaking to you, friends, in a dark hour, but this is the hard price that must be paid for the future. A revolution is a toll gate, but mankind will be liberated, uplifted, and consoled. We here affirm it on this barricade." So I'm assuming this is the last speech before everything goes down, because they've been giving quite a lot of speeches in each chapter. And the next chapter is actually called Marius and Javert. So it looks like they are going to have a conversation. It's quite a short chapter though, so I will probably read 2 chapters tomorrow. But then Thursday, we actually have tickets to go to Disneyland. Avengers Campus opened the end of July, so we've kind of been wanting to go since then, and I love Halloween time for the parades and decorations and everything. But also, the weather keeps looking worse and worse for Thursday. We've pretty much been having rain here every day, and today's like the first day it's not supposed to rain, even though it's still all cloudy and stuff. But tomorrow is actually supposed to be really nice, and I had almost booked it for Wednesday over Thursday, but at the last second decided not to. But then also I guess it's a good thing because Toma might not be better by then, but still, I don't want to like force him to go when he's sick. Like he's more like, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, whereas I just keep bringing up canceling, because we can cancel until the night before. So if he's still not feeling good tomorrow night, I hope he will let me cancel, just because I don't want him to have to be out all day feeling like he does right now. So it's tentative plans. We'll see what happens with that. But I just have fingers crossed if we do go, we're not going to get rained on the whole day. But the weather forecasts are always so bad here that a lot of times they're the opposite of what they say. I'm hoping for the best right now. Starting to be a dragon. The helper. I don't even know if you can hear my voice, but I was gonna film out here, and then there's all this noise. They're actually working at, like, literally right below me, like, right on our street here, and yeah, scratch that plan. Not sure what I'm gonna do about that. Hello, it is Thursday morning, it is 7:40 and it is still dark outside. We are heading out in just about 20 minutes to Disneyland Paris. So yesterday's kind of dumb. I actually read 3 chapters in Les Miserables, but then completely forgot to film. So I'll have to update you guys on that tomorrow if I feel up to filming. I'm not sure since we're going to be gone the entire day. I think it did rain a little bit last night, but definitely not much, and it's not raining now. It is supposed to rain this morning and this evening, but the forecasts here are really unreliable, so we really won't know until we get there and just experience it, basically. So here's to hoping that we have a fun time and none of us get motion sickness and no one gets food poisoning this time. That's cool. Now we're going from Disney to my tired and exhausted face. So yesterday was actually supposed to be a really rainy day, and it was raining when we left to get on the metro and the RER, but by the time we were there was no rain, there was blue skies, sun came out, and it ended up being 70 degrees. So it was actually a really warm and pretty much perfect day, but we thought that it was going to be cursed at first because the very first ride we went on was the Spider-Man web slinger thing, and it broke down. So that ride is set up similar to Phantom Manor, where they kind of like usher a group of people into a room and then the story starts. Like there's kind of like an explanation of like what's happening in the story and whatever before you actually like go further on and get on the actual ride part. And so we were ushered into this room and it started and then immediately broke down, and we're just like, are you fucking kidding me? And so the people came in and they're like, we have no estimate of how long this is going to take to fix. You can either go or stay. And we chose to stay. And we sat there for 45 minutes and there was never an update on how long it was going to take. And it literally ended up to where there was Toma and I and 2 families of 4. Well, one was definitely 4, the other might have 5, but that doesn't really matter. One was obviously a French family, and I think the other one was a German family. And the German family finally gave up, and they left, and right after, they gave us fast passes to come back later. And I felt so bad for that German family, because like literally if they had waited 2 more minutes, they would have had fast passes as well. I thought that was actually kind of shady that Disney did that, but it worked out for us, because then I went on the roller coaster and we came back to do the Spider-Man one and we were able to get on immediately. Like, fast passes are OP, but they're like 17 euros a ride. It's insane. It ended up being okay, but like when we first got there, I was like, oh man, we're making good time. We're gonna have both these rides knocked out. Maybe I'll be able to get a picture with like Jack Skellington or something. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is going better than I could expect. And then that happened and kind of messed up our plans, so I wasn't able to do everything I wanted to in that morning. But I mean, it is what it is, and overall, we were able to do most things we wanted. But also, we had originally planned to stay until the very end and see like the Disney Illuminations, because for Halloween, there's one before it where it's like villains, and I really wanted to see that, and then there's the fireworks at the end. Well, by 6 p.m., I was dying. My feet were killing me. I was so tired. I'd been awake since 3 a.m. because I pretty much like had woken up and wasn't able to fall back asleep. So like my body was telling me that I was done for the day. So instead of like waiting around for 3 hours it would have taken to get to 9 p.m., we just left and went home, because it's an hour ride to get home, and we didn't want to deal with the rush to the RER after Disney Illuminations either. Like last time we did that, we had to sit on the floor on the train. So really didn't want to experience that again. And 20 minutes into the trip back home, it started raining. And I know that I would have been so mad if I had to like wait in the rain. So it ended up being a really good thing that we left. It was perfect timing all around, and we ended up having a pretty good day overall. However, today I am dying. One ride I will never get on again is Hyperspace Mountain. It's the Star Wars roller coaster, and I've been on it before, but I had absolutely no memory of it. I need to make like a note to never get on this ride again, because both my knees are actually bruised from that ride today, and they were bruised last night as well. Basically, my knees touched like the seat in front of me, and so the whole ride, my knees were just like being jammed into the seats, and it hurts. And also, it's one of those rides where your head is constantly being like thrown back and forth. So I had the biggest headache after. I was literally like, do I have a concussion now? Like, what the hell? So that's one I will never go on. On the flip side, the Avengers roller coaster is super smooth. For 2 out of the 3 coasters I went on, I did the single rider line because Toma was nervous he would get motion sickness. And the Avengers coaster is definitely the best and smoothest and just most fun in my opinion. But also, for all of the coasters, I was in the front. For the 2 I was by myself. It was the first cart, not the very front seat, the one just behind. And then the one I rode with Toma, we were in the very front, which to me, the front is the scariest, because it literally looks like your car is gonna like go off the track. Granted, the ones where I was by myself, it was literally like completely dark, so you couldn't see. But I just thought that was kind of funny. I ended up in the front for like everything. So yeah, my knees are bruised. My feet are still hurting me. I'm only just now starting to walk around like normally. And my whole body is just like so tight and cramped, and my muscles keep like twitching, and I knew it was gonna be rough, but this morning I felt a lot worse than I was expecting actually. I took a pain pill a bit ago, so hopefully that's what's kicking in a bit. So anyway, let's see if I can actually remember any of the 3 chapters I read 2 days ago now. Okay, so this first chapter is called Marius and Javert, and not much happens here. It's mainly just a quick conversation between those 2, and Javert convinces Marius to actually tie him to a table so he's laying on his back instead of just standing against this pole, because he's been there for like a full day at least already. And so they do that and give him a little bit of water kind of thing. And then I'm going to read the last little paragraph here. This is on page 1008. It says, while they were doing this, a man appeared in the doorway and stood staring with a singular fixity at Javert. The shadow he cast caused Javert to turn his head. He looked round and recognized Jean Valjean. He gave no sign of emotion. Coolly averting his gaze, he simply said, "So here we are." I love that. I think that's amazing. Like, just the cat and mouse between Jean Valjean and Javert is, like, the best to me. But it's been so long since they've actually encountered each other. Like, ooh. So then this next chapter is called The Situation Deteriorates. And in this chapter, daybreak has just happened and everyone is kind of in their positions anticipating the attack because they can hear, like, the military rousing and kind of, like, coming around the corner kind of thing. And they have trapped themselves. They have, like, barricades on all sides of them. So pretty much, like, now there's no way of escape. There's no way they can go. The military pushes up this freaking cannon and gets ready to shoot it at the barricade. And this is on page 1011. And this situation is just kind of comical in a morbid way. It's really ridiculous. It says, a piece of artillery came in sight. It was being pushed by its gun crew and was already stripped for action, with the front bogey wheels removed. 2 men supported the barrel. 4 were at the wheels and the others followed, pulling the ammunition tender. A lighted fuse was visible. Fire! Shouted Enjolras. The whole barricade flashed fire, and following the thunderous detonations, a wave of smoke engulfed the gun and its crew. But when, after some moments, this cleared, the men were seen to be hauling the gun into its position facing the barricade, working without haste in correct military fashion. No one had been hit. Are they fucking stormtroopers? Like, what is happening here? Like, that definitely just seems like a ridiculous moment where they just, like, completely failed their intention. And then it goes to say, cheer up, said Courfeyrac. This is where it gets rough. First the sparring, and now the punch. The army is showing its fist. We are about to be seriously shaken. Musketry paves the way, but artillery does the job. Enjolras, meanwhile, had ordered his men to reload, and the artillerymen were loading their gun. The question was, however, would the barricade stand up to cannon fire? Would it be breached? The discharge was awaited with tense anxiety. The blow fell, accompanied by a roaring explosion, and a cheerful voice cried, I'm back! Gavroche had reappeared at the precise moment that the ball plowed into the barricade, having come by way of the Rue de Cygne, and scrambled over the small barrier confronting the maze of the Petite Truanderie. His arrival made more impression than did the cannonball, which simply buried itself in the rubble, having done nothing worse than shatter a wheel of the omnibus and demolish the old ancien handcart. Seeing which, the defenders burst out laughing. Carry on, shouted Bousset to the gunners. And that's how that chapter ends. So, when I was reading this and I first saw it say, like, I'm back, and I'm like, does Gavroche literally just get hit by a cannonball here? Like, what the fuck? Like, the timing of it, I was just like, this is insane. But then he's fine. Like, he wasn't being stupid at all. So then the last chapter I read is called The Gunners Show Their Worth. And so since Gavroche has appeared, everyone, like, immediately surrounds him to hear his report. But this is on the same page, right in the beginning. It says, the defenders crowded round Gavroche, but he had no time to tell them anything. Marius, trembling, dragged him aside. Why have you come back here? If it comes to that, said Gavroche, why are you here at all? And he surveyed Marius with his customary effrontery, his eyes widening with the glow of his own achievement. Who told you to come back? Marius demanded sternly. Did you at least deliver my letter? And then, like, Gavroche has, like, this inner turmoil of, like, kinda did, but not really. Because he gave it to Jean Valjean instead of Cosette. So he lies and says he gave it to, like, a doorman and that Cosette was sleeping, so she'll get it in the morning kind of thing. And also, Marius asks Gavroche, he points at Jean Valjean and asks him if he recognizes the man, but Gavroche says no. And, like, there's no hesitation and nothing, like, in here that implies that he's lying, so it's a kind of a little strange scene there. But then we kind of get a little peek into what Marius is thinking. This is on page 1012. It says, Marius had sent the letter with 2 objects in mind, to bid farewell to Cosette and to save Gavroche. He had to content himself with having accomplished only one of them. And that's something I didn't think of. Like, Gavroche is always, like, the errand boy here, so, I mean, to me, it just made sense that he had sent him. That's actually smart thinking for once on Marius's end of being like, hey, give him a job, and he will be away from here when all of this goes down, and so he will be safe. And, like, seeing him come back just must be, like, so terrifying for Marius, because you know that no one wants to see a child be killed, especially in something like this. So the scene progresses a bit with the military firing some grape shot into the barricade, and it actually hit some people. I think it was 3 died, 2 injured, if I remember correctly. Combeferre and Enjolras are like, we cannot let this happen again. And so there's a person that was reloading the cannon again, I believe it was. And so this is on page 1013. "What a shame," said Combeferre. "How hideous this butchery is. Well, when there are no more kings, there will be no more warfare. You're aiming at that sergeant, Enjolras, but you're not looking at him. He looks a charming young man, and he's certainly brave. One can see that he thinks these young artillerymen are highly educated. No doubt he has a family, a father and mother, and probably he's in love. He can't be more than 25. He could be your brother." "He is," said Enjolras. "Yes," said Combeferre, "and mine too. We mustn't kill him. We must. It has to be done." A tear rolled slowly down Enjolras' pallid cheek. At the same moment he pressed the trigger. The young gunner spun round twice with arms extended and head flung back as though gasping for air, then fell sideways onto the gun and stayed motionless. Blood poured from the middle of his back, which was turned towards them. His body had to be removed and a relief appointed in his place. It meant that a few minutes had been gained. And that's how that chapter ends. Like, whew. I really find the rebels to be more interesting in the book than in the movie, because obviously in the movie everything happens so fast, and that's like the climax as well. So it's just like a lot of action, not a lot of talking, and like everyone dies kind of thing. Where in here we see more into their minds and what they're thinking, and like this exchange between Combeferre and Enjolras, you can see how Enjolras doesn't want to murder. He doesn't want to take lives, but he feels this is necessary for what he believes in and to make the rest of the world a better place. So his mentality is like sacrifice the few to save everyone kind of thing. But like just to see that inner turmoil is fascinating to me, because I feel like in stories where stuff like that happens, that might not be a key feature, is how they react and how they respond to what they feel like they have to do. And so the next chapter is called Use of an Old Poacher's Talent, and that one's really short, and the chapter for that is called Dawn. So I will probably read those two tomorrow actually, and check in then and have that be the end of this, because I know this section is probably super long, but this has been an odd week, and I don't really want to push myself today because I'm definitely recovering from yesterday. And Thomas, I don't know how he does it. He's out at a game shop at Châtelet playing Warhammer right now. Like, how on earth can you go anywhere today? Like, I guess that's what happens when you don't have fibromyalgia though, is you can actually go do things the next day after walking all day at Disneyland. But then on Saturday too, we're finally having D&D in person again. We're doing Matt's campaign, and we're actually going to his house, which Thomas has been to once last year, but I've never been to before. So this will be our first time doing this campaign at his house, since we had to find a different place after our friends moved to Dublin. So it's been a long time coming.
Oh. Better leave her alone, Ori. Two are idiots.
Ugh, I'm so sleepy. And today is actually Sunday. We ended up playing D&D yesterday, and that actually lasted a lot longer than I thought it would. So by the time we got home, it was pretty dark outside. When we had left our friend's apartment, the sun had been setting. And since the lighting in here is so bad, I really don't like filming after dark. And now we're getting into the season where it gets dark earlier and earlier. But D&D was fun. It was nice to play that campaign again. We hadn't played since the end of August, so it'd been quite a while, and it was our first time doing this session at our DM's apartment. And Tortilla's arrived, since she of course has to be over here. Their apartment is in like the most central place you can be. Like, you can see the Eiffel Tower from their building, so it's impressive. But I just read 2 chapters in Les Miserables, and the first one is really showing how Jean Valjean is the GOAT. Like, he's pretty much invincible and can do everything and anything that needs to be done. So the chapter was called Use of an Old Poacher's Talent. So basically the opposition is busy loading the cannon, but they're still having like gunfire on the barricade, and they know they can't take like another hit of the grape shot because that like ricochets and hits a lot of people. And so they're like, we need to stuff these gaps with a mattress, but there's none available. They said that all of them are like, they have people on them, they have the wounded on them. And there's a house that actually has a mattress like strung up covering the window. And this is on page 1014, and it says, "Will someone lend me a double-barreled carbine?" said Valjean. Enjolras passed him his own, which he had just reloaded. Jean Valjean took aim and fired, and one of the cords parted, leaving the mattress hanging by the other. He fired again, and the second cord whipped against the window. The mattress slid between the two poles and fell into the street. There was a burst of applause from the defenders, and someone cried, "There's your mattress." "Yes," said Combeferre, "but who's going to fetch it?" I wonder who. Because then on the very next page, because it had basically fallen between where the barricade is and where the military people are, so it's literally like in the middle of all the fire. And so it says, Jean Valjean went out through the breach, dashed through the hail of bullets, picked up the mattress, and carrying it on his back, brought it into the stronghold. He then used it to block the breach, fixing it against the house wall in a position where the gunners could not see it. Then the defenders awaited the next salvo of grape, which was not slow in coming. The gun thundered out its charge of small shot, but this time there was no ricochet. The mattress had had the desired effect. It had damped the spread of the bullets. The stronghold was spared this peril. "Citizen," said Enjolras to Jean Valjean, "the Republic thanks you." Bousset was laughing as he marveled. How immoral that a mattress should prove so effective. A triumph of submissiveness over aggression. Glory be to the mattress, which neutralizes cannon. And I thought that was a really funny way to end that chapter. So pretty much Jean Valjean is just like, well, it's a good thing I'm here. And he just does this stuff, like, without even speaking, really. And everyone's just, like, in awe of him, which, I mean, they kind of should be. And so then the next chapter is kind of and weird as well. It's called Dawn, and it's about Cosette, like, waking up that morning. And she doesn't know anything that's going on, because she went to bed before all, like, the initial trouble started, so she doesn't know Jean Valjean's not there, she doesn't have Marius's note, she knows nothing. And so pretty much Victor Hugo takes this time to be a little creepy. Like, it's very odd. He talks about how, like, I'm not going to describe her bedroom because she's a young woman and that is, like, forbidden, you never do that kind of thing. And it's like, what? So there's, like, this paragraph here, this is on page 1017, that just is very odd. It says, "The masculine gaze must display even more reverence at the rising of a girl from her bed than at the rising of a star. The very possibility that she can be touched should increase our respect. The down on a peach, the dust on a plum, the crystal gleam of snow, the powdered butterfly's wing, these are gross matters compared with the chastity that does not know that it is chaste. A virgin girl is a vision and a dream, not yet become a thing to be looked at. Her alcove is buried in the depths of the ideal. An indiscreet caress of the eyes is a ravishment of this intangible veil. Even a glance is a profanation. Therefore we shall depict nothing whatever of the soft commotion of Cosette's uprising. According to an Eastern fable, the rose was white when God created it, but when, as it unfolded, it felt Adam's eyes upon it, it blushed in modesty and turned pink. We are among those who are moved to silence by young girls and flowers, finding them objects of veneration." This is just completely weird. Like, why can't kids just be kids kind of thing? Like, I feel like this is one of those weird statements where, like, they are acknowledging that they're, like, attracted to young women, but are like, it is perverse to look upon them though. Like, we know what we're thinking, but we can't say it out loud kind of thing. It's just very odd and strange. I know it's a product of the time, but, like, can we just not? So that's literally kind of how this whole chapter is. And she pretty much, like, gets up, gets ready, like, looks out the window, cries for some reason, and then she's happy again because she thinks Marius is gonna show up, since of course he should have gotten her letter by now. That's pretty much where that ends. Like, it's very lackluster, and Cosette is just kind of like do 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 do. So she is definitely not in the know of what is happening right now. And that is all for this week. I am definitely looking forward into reading more about the barricade. I'm hoping it was just like the one chapter about Cosette, because I really don't care about her right now. She's coming off as very dumb. Oh yeah, because one of the things in the chapter, she was like, oh, I haven't seen Marius for 3 days. Like, how did I survive? And just how much they like rely on each other to like live is problematic. But anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. It is always appreciated. And until next time, bonne journée and au revoir.